Hey friends, we are driving about 45 minutes outside of Austin, Texas, and we're going to meet a builder named Scott that I met at the Humid Climate Conference in Austin, who tells me he's been watching the build show, learning a bunch of my high performance techniques, and using them on much more affordable houses than what I typically am building. So, let's get going. I see a white truck. Let's assume that's Scott, shall we? Awesome. All right, here we go. Scott. Hey man, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, thank you for having me out on the job site.
Thank you for coming.
All right, so Scott, I promised these guys that are watching this video that you would show us some high performance details on a budget. Tell me, first off, I'm seeing that you're taping your foundation to your framing. So
yes,
that bottom
right.
plate detail is really tight.
That's
How
right.
are you tightening, obviously the body of the wall looks very, very tight. You've got the zip tape everywhere. It looks like you've used some various tapes and stretch flashings and such on any of your penetrations. But how about your attics? You know, we're slab on grade here in Texas. So how are you air sealing between, let's say, walls and attic space?
Sure, and if you don't mind, I'll just start kind of where you started, and we'll talk about the bottom and work our way up.
Let's do it. Sounds good.
So this is the Siga tape.
Yep.
It's not that expensive of a detail. So this is something people can absolutely do on their spec homes.
Love it. That's what these are. These are speculative houses.
That's right. So what I used to do is I used to finish the slab first and have my guys keep the tape 1 inch down, and then that would be covered with the siding. But with these kinds of framers that work on spec homes, you know, they're moving very fast.
Yep.
It's real difficult to keep that straight line, and I would see it dip down below the siding.
Sure.
And so this is actually a detail that I learned, I think, from one of your someone you interviewed once. And now we're putting
what are you doing?
We're going to put the tape on before they finish the slab here with the underpinning. And they're going to underpin it over this later so that it's completely hidden.
Smart. So in other words, you'll drop your siding down and then you'll underpin.
That's right.
And if you're not familiar with underpinning, all Scott and I are talking about is it's basically a stucco coat right on top of this concrete. You can see this is concrete that's got some honeycombing, totally fine structurally, but not the best looking just aesthetically. There's nothing wrong structurally with it, and because this has a kind of fleece backer, it'll accept a stucco coat on there, so you're just putting a real thin stucco coat on the foundation.
That's right. And so working our way up, let's just look at this house. Working our way up, of course we're using the zip sheathing and taping the seams, and then flashing every penetration.
Yep.
And we're flashing it in a way that's keeping air and water out.
Smart.
So that one's been covered up with a mounting block. That's just a mounting block that siding goes up against.
Okay. Yep.
But this would be an example of something.
Love it.
The way we would tape around it.
Yeah, a little stretch tape. You start at the bottom, you worked up, then you hit the top, and then you put an extra piece on there for a little belt and suspenders. I like that, Scott.
Exactly. And these penetrations are a bit high, but
look at that, man.
You've got to imagine there's going to be a deck here.
Beautiful.
So this spigot is for the deck.
Yep.
This is going to be for an outdoor kitchen.
Oh, killer.
An outlet for the kitchen.
Yep. Yep.
And then that's an outlet and cable for mounting a TV.
Sweet. Love it.
But with the outlets, I'm using the Arlington inboxes.
I love this. Yeah.
And I just fur those out with an extra piece of zip sheathing. And then I'll use, we always keep Big Stretch on hand, so I'll use Big Stretch in between the pieces to kind of seal that up.
Smart. And then this is on a piece of 1x something, 1x2 maybe. What are we seeing there, Scott? Why is that bucked out with some 1x2s?
Well, this house is going to have a rain screen, and the rain screen is established with these 1x2s.
Got it. So it's a 3/4 inch roughly out rain screen.
That's right.
Got a real nice air gap. And that's right. It looks like your windows are bucked out as well.
That's right, so that it comes out to
So all you
the
did
level of
was
the rain
just
screen.
did basically a 1x4 on top of the sheathing, and then you installed your window and taped it to that. So it's perfectly water and airtight, but that window flange now is brought out so that when his siding goes on, he's got enough depth right here to reach into that
And
siding.
You'll see we've got some different brands of tape here, but that's just because we have it left over from another job, and
Yep.
I'm using it in a spot that's
Yeah, nothing wrong with
gonna
that.
stay.
Yeah, smart, man. Reuse everything you can on a job site.
Okay, so working our way up, we like to frame in a way that most framers can do without a whole lot of education. So for the most part, we're letting them frame the way that they know, with not the monopoly framing, but just with the overhang built right from the beginning.
So in other words, the rafter tails are sitting on top of the double top plate.
Exactly.
They're not tails; it's true rafters.
That's right.
And
exactly.
you're not using trusses. You're actually hand framing these roofs.
That's right.
Okay, gotcha. And then walk me through the assembly after that. Then after framing's complete.
Right. So they'll go ahead and install zip sheathing as the soffit first, and so that's zip sheathing. In the soffit area gets taped to the wall.
Okay.
And so that's what's giving us that continuous air barrier at that corner. And then they'll go ahead and put the hardy fascia on.
Mm-hmm.
The way most of these framers work is they like to put that hardy fascia on as a straight edge. So when they go to deck the house, they've got kind of a straight edge to work off of. So we'll go ahead and let them do that, but then we'll caulk with something like Big Stretch the zip soffit to the backside of the hardy fascia.
How about that?
And then moving up, you can actually see a little bit of that. The Fintrum tape tapes the fascia to the roof decking. So basically, I have my air barrier going through that fascia.
What a genius idea, Scott! I've never heard of this before. So it's hard to visualize because our hardy is on. But basically what you've done is you've taken your air barrier up the wall, across the soffit, and up the fascia, and then your spray foam at the roof line, which will go inside the house in a second, will complete that air barrier on the underside of the roof deck all the way to the ridge, and then back down again.
Yes, that's right.
So we're totally complete from here all the way up to the ridge and back down over. So in effect, you've created a monopoly framed house, but you've done it with kind of standard framers, standard framing techniques.
Exactly.
Well done, Scott. That's
right.
impressive. I've never heard or thought of that before. Okay, guys, we're cutting from Scott's job site to show you one of my job sites. What I learned from Scott, I literally implemented the very next day. Normally, when we've got rafters coming through like this, and this happens to be a truss roof, we would bird block in between these rafters. We'd spray foam the backside. We might go back and liquid flash that bird block to try and air seal it ahead of time. But Scott showed us a better way. Sheathe your soffits with zip system sheathing. And then where your soffit hits your sub fascia, which is this 2x here, tape that joint for air tightness. And Scott was running a flat soffit. This house has an angled soffit. So where it's angled, we're gonna go ahead and seal that. See that light coming through there? We're gonna seal that joint with some liquid flash. We might have to do it in 2 passes because it's a bit of a bigger joint right there, but we're using zip system liquid flash, which is a fancy caulking that's both water and airtight, sticks perfectly to zip system sheathing, and now that joint will be perfectly air sealed, and of course watertight. We're not super worried about water under here though. But now when we spray foam this cavity, when we come into this house and spray foam this roof line, the underside of this deck, we'll spray foam into this cavity, but we're not using the spray foam for air tightness. We've got a belt and suspenders approach by tightening all this up. Great job, Scott. I absolutely love it. It sounds like Scott spoke with Joe Stiebrick about this detail, and I'm loving it. I think this is a great detail that takes kind of standard construction and takes it to the next level. All right, back to the job site.
The first time I did this, it was on my personal house, and we had a 0.6 ACH 50.
How about that?
And what I like about that is that I didn't do anything extraordinary. I mean, everything was kept real simple. I mean, I did probably pay attention to detail, maybe a little bit more so than a spec home, because I, took my time on it.
Sure.
But yeah, in general, I think with this method, anyone can achieve a pretty tight house without going over the top on methods.
I love it, Scott. Let's go inside and let's talk about a couple of your interior details, shall we? Okay, so we're going in the garage here. Were you gonna point something else out to me, Scott?
Oh no, I was actually just gonna tell you, because I'm constantly experimenting. Always, all of our houses are, and that's the cool thing about building high performance spec homes where you don't have a customer and there's no specifications.
Yeah, it's nice.
It gives us that opportunity to experiment. On the next 3 houses that we do, we're gonna use Joe Stiebrick's idea of using the sill as the furring strips.
Ah, yeah, nice.
It makes for a much smaller air gap, but in this climate, that's enough.
Yeah, makes sense.
And really the main reason I want to do that is because it's going to make the trim details a lot easier for the framers. And when I make that easier, they're going to do a better job.
Yeah, it makes sense. I like it. And speaking of furring, I'm guessing this is what you're using for your rain screen furring.
They are furring strips from Home Depot.
Cheap, effective.
I'd
like to point out they're not pressure treated. They don't need to be pressure treated.
Right, and these are the wider versions that we'll use on board and batten areas.
Got it.
So the layout is slightly different depending on what the siding is going to be.
Really smart. I'm noticing, looks like you've got 24-inch on-center framing too, Scott.
That's
you got
right.
some advanced framing going on here?
As a standard, we're doing advanced framing 2x6, 24-inch on center. With that, we're doing the open corners and open wall connections. We're usually putting our headers at the top plate.
Let's go see that. I'm looking forward to that. And drywall's up in here, I'm assuming, because that's going to be your air barrier for the house to garage connection. And I'm assuming that means you're spray foaming this wall as well?
That's right. So obviously this wall does not have the same details as the other exterior walls.
Yep.
I consider it an exterior wall because on the other side is unconditioned.
Yeah.
But because it doesn't have those details, we're going to spray foam here. On a custom home, we're going to take those extra steps where we just sheathe all the way through.
Yeah, you could zip sheathe that. But on a spec house, you need to be cautious about your dollar.
That's right.
Makes sense. And then what's the white, what am I seeing right there? The bottom plate.
It's the big stretch caulking. It's smart. It's really just an extra measure because we've got our air barrier on the outside already. And that's primary. But everything I do on the inside is just an extra measure.
Little belt and suspenders. I like that. So he's got some big stretch here on his full exterior plate as well. And then I'm noticing, Scott, like this bay right here has some blue spray foam on that bay. What does that mean? What are you indicating with that blue spray foam?
Aside from the garage wall, the house is going to get bibs in the walls. The blown-in fiberglass. It's really cost-effective.
Yep.
You get a good R value per inch.
For sure.
And it's pretty thorough when it comes to getting around pipes and everything.
Yeah, and probably half the cost of spray foam or so?
That's right. And so the only exception is when it comes to any spot where I have a penetration going on, we'll go ahead and have the guys spray foam those areas in the walls.
Yeah, because you got some daylight coming through here.
Right.
Even though it's been sealed with some tape on the outside, some spray foam in there will really help make sure that you've got that belt and suspenders. And you're not relying on the spray foam for tightness, but you're using that as your belt when you've already got suspenders on, right?
Exactly right.
And is that what's going on here too? You've got another blue outline right here as well?
Yeah, and the reason this wire is like this, when the electricians come, I literally just have them drill a hole, poke the wire through, and then I come back later personally, pull the wire out, install the Arlington inbox myself, fur it out, tape it, seal it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's completely sealed on the outside. The only thing that's not sealed on this box are these punch outs.
Knockout boxes.
So before they come and insulate, I'm going to either Siga tape over them or caulk over them.
Yeah, and you're also then spray foaming as well.
And spray foaming, that's right.
Super smart. Belt and suspenders. I like it. So then these can lights that are here are inside your envelope, your air conditioned envelope, because this looks like some framing for a second floor above us.
There's a second floor. This was an afterthought, though. Again, like I said before, framers that kind of work in this spec home arena, they work fast.
Yep.
Lots of things happen before you can catch them.
Sure.
On this particular house, we had a lower pitch roof in the plans, and actually this happened when I went to the Humid Climate Conference. I was gone for 2 days. I come back, and they put a higher pitch on the house, and we ended up with this gigantic attic, and so that's when we thought, okay, you know what, we're gonna make a bonus room up there.
Oh, heck yeah, that's awesome.
And so now we have a bonus room, and then I had Corbett, who does my manual J's.
Mm-hmm.
He adjusted everything for me.
Corbett Lunsford.
That's right.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
he adjusted the whole calculation so that we know what to supply in there. Now, we don't actually have that supply in there yet. The HVAC guys still got to come back and do things.
Gotcha.
But there'll be supply in there, and then also supply in the attic.
I love it. So back to the advanced framing, 2x6s, 24-inch on centers, standard double top plate, which means that we're not as worried about making sure rafters are perfectly aligned on each stud, which of course
That's
is
right.
ideal, but not always.
We do that most of the time.
Yeah.
And
then you've also got your headers, it looks like perfectly sized. You didn't oversize them, and they're pushed to the front of the sheathing so that now Scott's got room for insulation behind those headers right there. And some budget windows, I would say.
Yes, these windows
probably
these
perfectly acceptable.
These come from Home Depot. Again, on a custom home, we're obviously using a better window.
Yep.
But for a spec home, these windows work. I have these windows in my house that's 0.6 ACH 50.
Wow, how about that? That's awesome.
So it works.
Yeah.
It works well.
And the other thing I'm noticing is, swing doors and not a lot of extra penetrations, right? He doesn't have a giant slider somewhere that would be really leaky. So you're able to get away with more budget windows and doors, but yet still get some really good performance out of those. I like that, Scout. That's impressive, man. Talk to me about labor and, building a high performance house at a, more friendly price point. How's it been working with subs, finding people to do some of these details? Does it require more oversight? Are you on the job constantly? Are you going back and redoing some things?
Yes.
And also, I know the frustration that a lot of builders are having is that subs are just really busy. And so if you're asking them to do one extra thing, they'd rather go to another job site than do yours.
That's exactly right. That is the challenge. If I were a big custom home builder and I had my own crew and I was training them all the time, it would be totally different. Mm-hmm. But this is sort of the spec home world. Mm-hmm. I mean, we do 2-3 customs a year.
Yep.
But with doing so many spec homes, we're dealing with these people. They work fast. They just want to get in and out.
Yep.
It's a challenge. But really, I was up for that challenge. I wanted to come up with methods that these people can do, that they have the skill for, that they don't need a lot of training for. So that's the reason I come up with these methods. But then, in addition to that, I've got to be here all the time.
Yeah.
And when we have multiple jobs going on at once, I'm driving around all the time. I'm checking things. I'm trying to catch things before they happen.
Yeah. And you're a one-man show, Scott, too?
My wife helps me.
Okay.
But we have a one laborer.
Okay.
That kind of helps with cleanup and
single solitary employee.
But yeah, that's pretty much it.
It's impressive. Do you mind me asking what the price point on this house for sale is going to be? I mean, this, from what I'm seeing, this is much higher performance, much better details than some of the production builders that I walk through their houses. I suspect, I would think that this would be a pretty high price point based on the details I'm seeing here.
So this home will be a little bit higher than some of our others. It's going to have a few extra details. I'll get into that in a minute. But like the house next door is a good example of a house that we would build all the time. It would fit into that 80% of homes that we build category. That home over there is just when it's done, it's going to look like any other home because everything is going to be covered up.
Yep.
But in reality, it's built for performance.
That's going to be below 1 ACH 50. Have a really good
Close
HVAC
to that.
system. Yeah, that's pretty good.
But our goal with doing all of that is to keep the price point competitive. I mean, we're selling these spec homes to people that don't even have never heard of high performance, have
awesome.
never heard of indoor air quality.
That's fantastic.
They don't even know that it exists. So as they're purchasing the home, they're learning about this stuff as they're going through the process of purchasing. But the thing is to sell them on those performance details early on. I've got to educate them before they put the offer in.
Yeah.
So it's kind of tricky.
You've ruined them for other builders, though, haven't you?
Right. I mean,
you're doing all these details.
I could do all that education and try to sell the homes for more, but I also have this mission. I told you before on our website we have this slogan, "Home building as it should be," because I look at these details, and lots of people think they're like real special. They've never seen anything like that before. But really, it's home building as it should be. This is all homes should be built in a way where you're trying to keep water out and control of your air.
Yep. Yeah, and what I'm loving is that none of this is special. Besides maybe some Sega tape, which was made in Europe and Switzerland. Other than that, you're seeing regular old products that you got either at the the local home center or the local lumber yard, but you've done it in a thoughtful way. I mean, even just as simple a detail as a California corner, this 3-stud corner right here. Insulation is going to go all the way back. He's been really thoughtful about, hey, spray foam guys, spray foam this area here as a belt and suspenders. Spray foam this area as a belt and suspenders. Bibs right here. I mean, it's just, you've done things really smart.
You'll notice that I put big boxes here because I used to spray paint this little circle there, and I learned that they just don't put enough there. They'll just spray it for a second and walk away.
Yeah.
So now I kind of put big boxes there.
Really smart. And now that we're inside, just to help guys at home understand where that double top plate is, that void that's above there, the spray foam is going to be down into that void and will help insulate and air seal that. Okay, Scott got me a ladder so I can go up and show you, but what we're talking about here is his soffits are air sealed and closed, and so when I poke up here with my camera, you're not seeing any light in here, and that's because the zip sheathing that you're seeing right there is the soffit, and that's been taped. And then where that 2x4 is, where the rafter comes out, that's been taped. So this is perfectly air sealed before spray foam, and the spray foam contractor is going to get up here and run his spray foam gun all the way up in here, fill that whole cavity with spray foam, and that'll be part of the exterior air sealed envelope. But the spray foam is not being used as an air barrier, it's been air sealed already. Way to go, Scott. That's awesome. In the past, I've kind of relied on spray foam as an air sealer and have been disappointed, but as a backup air seal, it works real well. And then the other beauty of spray foam is that it sticks to surfaces. So, as the spray foam guys spray foam to this roof line, especially like a hip roof like this, it can stick all the way up and will insulate that roof line. Now, Scott, you mentioned that you've got bibs in the walls. Have you tried bibs in the attic as well?
I have. Like I said, I do a lot of experimenting. At one point, I wanted to get away from foam. When you see flaws, it's really hard to get those guys to come back out and fix it.
Yeah.
I also don't like that it's not totally environmentally friendly. It's a little bit toxic when it's being sprayed.
Yep.
But I've tried other methods, and when you are building a house with valleys and hips, it's really difficult to get bibs up there or bats. The labor cost is usually more than the foam. I will do that still in the future when I have a more simple roof. But for the most part, foam just makes sense. And the energy efficiency is going to make up, the pros are going to outweigh the cons.
Yeah, but I like how you vary it too, right? So your walls are bibs here, and all this square footage is going to be all bibs. So he's saving the money where he needs to save the money, and then just using that more expensive spray foam where it's important, which is sticking to that roof deck,
Right.
and getting into those cracks and crevices. Although really your bibs is going to get into your cracks and crevices. It's just the
That's
ability
right.
to stick to that roof deck.
That's exactly right. And
Is what you're
I
doing.
wanted to say is that I'm not using it at the roof deck because it has so much higher R value, or it's a better insulator.
You use an open cell foam.
I'm
right?
using it so that it sticks to the top of the roof deck because I want to condition my attics.
Right. Yep.
I mean, just conditioning your attic and having all of the HVAC system and ducts within that actively conditioned space, meaning that actually have a supply up there.
Yep.
That makes a huge difference for the load requirements of the house.
Yeah.
And actually, I'd like to get into some of the HVAC details if we can.
Let's do it. You want to go up and talk about this?
Sure.
Okay, so this will be a bonus room for you. They kind of opened up because this roof line ended up being a much higher pitch. So it was a happy accident by the framers, I would say. Gives you a little extra square footage. Talk to me about your HVAC system, Scott.
Sure. It's funny because just yesterday a worker was asking me, he was saying, it looks like a normal HVAC system. What's so different about it? And my first response was, well, first of all, it's probably about half the capacity of what another spec home builder would put in this house. And that's for several reasons. First of all, the other builders aren't coming up with a good insulation strategy and making their homes airtight.
Yep.
Right? So the load requirements are different. But on top of that, HVAC contractors do not know how to do manual J calculations.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. So
that's sort of a bold statement, but I have been through in this area, dozens of HVAC contractors, and none of it looked right.
Yep.
And the way that I met Corbett first, I hired him to check the work. And what he was able to do is point out very specific things that they were getting wrong in there.
Yep.
It's funny because when you ask most HVAC contractors, to explain how they did the calculation, they can't explain it. They can't point out a detail and said, I put this number there because whatever. And so because Corbett was able to give me specific reasons and explain the whole calculation, I trusted him. So now, instead of him checking the work, he just does our calculations now.
That's awesome.
So
Do you have any idea what your square foot per ton is on this house?
Well, this is a 2-ton unit. Now, this one is going to be it's variable speed,
Okay.
indoor and outdoor.
Mm-hmm.
That's not typical. Like I said, this home has a few extra features.
Yeah.
The one next door is more typical of what we would do. And
Okay.
we would typically use a single stage
Yep.
condenser.
Single speed.
Again, keeping the cost down. But that home is probably, next door is 1,800 square feet, somewhere around there.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably going to get a ton and a half.
Wow. So like 1,200 square feet to the
so,
ton or so.
Again, that's a good insulation strategy, good air barrier,
Yep.
but also doing the calculation correctly.
Yeah, that's right.
Because that single stage condenser, it's small, but it's going to run all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be dehumidifying all the time. And that air is going to be filtered all the time. A typical house here in this area is going to be way oversized. And that machine is turning off and on
Yeah.
all day long.
Yep.
It's never able to dehumidify.
Mm-hmm.
It's not filtering that air. And it's not efficient.
Yeah. Smart. Can we crawl back here and see what you got? What's this piece of equipment on the right here? What do we got?
So this is the ERV.
Ooh, nice. A Fantech ERV. How about that in a spec house? I love it.
The ERV is going to be standard, even in our cheap homes.
Okay, so Scott's making
Because-
ERVs a standard. I love it.
the reason this is not an extra feature is because no matter what home we're building tight.
Yep.
And because of that, I need the ventilation to be balanced. It's funny because our makeup air system at my personal house broke. So when I turn my range hood on, the front door literally opens by itself. It's kind of funny. I gotta get it fixed. But that just goes to show what's happening to a house when it's being depressurized.
Yep.
You're gonna pull that humidity through the wall assembly. You're gonna pull in contaminants.
Yep.
It's not good for the durability of the house.
For sure.
But it's also not good for comfort and health either.
Yep.
So yeah, an ERV is going to be standard. This particular one is very cost effective.
This Fantech model is? You don't happen to know the model number, do you?
It's the 150.
Okay.
They make two versions.
So 150 CFM as well?
That's right.
Okay.
But most of the time it runs, I love this because it runs in low speed 24/7.
Yeah, that's
so
awesome.
It's pulling just a little bit of air out all the time.
And is it tied to bathrooms or kitchens?
Bathrooms and laundry.
Okay.
Is where it's coming from.
Killer. And you don't have an exhaust fan in those areas besides the ERV then?
No, what builders would call fart fans.
Yep.
There's none of that.
Not needed because your ERV is pulling it.
Now we have buttons in the bathroom and laundry room.
Which boost it?
So when you push the button, it'll kick this into high for 20 minutes.
Love it. Killer.
And then it's got a wall controller as well so that you can manually control it if you want to.
Yeah.
Now,
then heat pump for your furnace, I'm assuming, right? I don't see a gas line running in here.
That's right. Yep, heat pump. This one happens to be a Bosch, and I haven't used it before.
Yeah, I don't see a lot of that in the marketplace.
It has been very difficult getting HVAC equipment lately.
Has it?
We have had houses completely finished and then sit for 3 months before the condenser comes for it. It happens that the smaller units are harder to get, like the 10.5 ones. Yeah. But at the time, my guy sold me on this unit. He had it. Well, it was available that he could get. And so we're trying it. I mean,
love it.
The quality comes from the install for the most part.
Sure. I totally
although
agree.
you do want a good system, of course.
And then you've also got, it looks like a real nice, thick, pleated media filter right there before it comes into the return side.
It took me a long time, actually, to find this HVAC contractor. I went through many of them. But this guy, I'm very happy with.
Good. Looks tight.
He follows my direction in terms of the manual J.
It's strapped nicely.
In design. But when it comes to the install, they're doing a good job.
Yeah, it looks really good.
Now, another thing to point out here, you'll see our Fantech makeup air kit.
Ah, nice. I got that in my house.
Now,
killer.
The standard thing, like next door is our more standard home. In a standard home, we're going to put just a simple damper that's connected to the hood, and it's going to open up when you turn the hood on and allow that air, outside air, to come in to make it up. Okay. To keeping the house balanced. The reason I have this here in this house is because this particular hood has higher CFM. Gotcha. And a damper is not going to work. Even a big damper is not going to be enough to make up for a hood that goes up to 900 CFM.
Yeah, you need a powered fan to blow it in.
That's right.
And then that one's also going to filter that incoming air. It's probably got a nice filter box in there. And some of them, in cold climates, have a heater on there as well, just like a little hair dryer. Exactly. Resistance. You really probably don't need that here.
No. We are bringing in that hot, humid air. But keeping it balanced is important. And it's just when they're cooking. It's just when cooking is going on.
That's right. Turn it off when you're done cooking.
But the important thing here is this has the silencer on it, and the hood has the remote blower, so to keep it quiet in the kitchen.
Oh, that's nice.
It's for indoor air quality. It's important to use the hood when you're cooking. Yeah. Use it. Otherwise, those contaminants are going throughout the house. a lot of the time, people are not using their hood because it's so noisy.
Yeah.
They just want to turn it off and get rid of that noise. So here, we've got a pretty good one that's going to be quiet, and hopefully people will use it.
Well done, Scott. Good stuff, man.
Doing these kinds of details when it's not specified and really no one's really looking for it.
Yeah.
But doing that has enabled some interesting opportunities to come my way.
Yeah.
Because now we are starting to get these really interesting jobs.
That's awesome.
We've got one that's coming up actually that is big house. The guy is all about high performance, all about indoor air quality, all this, and we've got architects and we've got a whole team. And so really this is going to become my dream job.
So awesome, Scott.
And I would have never had that opportunity if I didn't just start doing these things on spec homes.
Yeah. No, so this house, spec house, no owner attached yet. You've done the details really well. What would your competition be doing? Somebody who looks at this house, it is not interested in high performance necessarily. If they looked at your competitors or what other spec houses are being built here in this area, what would they find? What would be the kind of standard construction details?
Well, commodity OSB, no seams taped, bottom plate not sealed, roof to wall connection not sealed.
Mm-hmm. Would they even be solid sheath? I mean, a lot of places in Texas, there's cardboard sheathing.
Oh, we see that all the time here.
Or just tar paper over studs.
Cardboard. I stopped at a job site and took a piece of cardboard because I couldn't believe that they build houses out of cardboard. I couldn't believe it.
Yes, they do. All over the place.
I don't know if that's worse or some of them just put the siding right on the studs.
Yep.
I mean, that's done here. There's no code enforcement in this area, believe it or not.
Yep.
So you see all kinds of
and we're not in a seismic
strange
zone,
things.
so we don't often have the kind of seismic requirements. We definitely have wind though, and anytime houses go wrong, you see lots of crumbled houses that had cardboard sheathing.
Right. And I will say this, that one trend that I see all the time is I always like to say that the most vulnerable spots of the house are typically the spots that are the least protected.
Yeah.
The most vulnerable spot of OSB is going to be that bottom edge of it because that's where the water's going to end up and wake up.
Yep.
Well,
closest
if you
to the
drive
ground.
around, you're going to see they've got their cheap woven Tyvek products barely stapled on. It's being ripped apart all the time.
Yep.
But then it doesn't even go to the bottom. The bottom edge is exposed. Well, what's the most vulnerable spot of a window?
Yeah.
It's going to be the bottom corners.
That's right.
That's where the water's going to end up. That happens to be the only place that goes unprotected.
Yeah.
Because they'll put a piece of moist stop on the windowsill and then cut the corner where it's vulnerable.
I know. So bad. Terrible. Drives me crazy. Pretty bad.
The other thing is, the reason so many people think my job sites are weird is because they see houses like this that are being roughed in before the siding. That is not done around here. Typically what you'll see is they frame all the way through, put the siding on and everything, poke all the penetrations through the siding and everything, the whole assembly, and those holes will never be sealed, ever.
I mean,
it's permanently open.
Scott, you just mentioned what I think is the biggest rookie builder mistake that I see veteran builders, big builders, small builders that have been around for 30, 40 years doing all the time is framing the house, siding the house, putting all the exterior cladding on, and then bringing the trades. It's a nightmare, and it just can never be done properly. But you've waited, the zip sheathing is on and taped. Now the trades are coming in. He's got plumbers and HVAC guys and electricians coming, and then we'll side the house so that you can make sure that each one of those penetrations is properly water sealed, number one, which is most important, and then air sealed. And as we've talked about in my videos, if you've been paying attention, anytime we air seal, we bug seal as well. And our clients will pay more money for that. Air sealing, they may or may not pay more money for. But what I love about this tour with Scott is nothing I'm seeing here, with the exception of maybe his bottom plate tape detail where he's used a little bit more expensive tape there. Nothing is out of the ordinary. Nothing is really particularly expensive, but it's just taken some thought and care from you as the builder, Scott. Well done, sir. Really, really impressive. Hey, before we end the video, would you mind giving me a quick tour of your job trailer?
Sure.
I know you were a little nervous because you felt like it was messy, but let's go check that out real quick.
I put the AC in there because my original idea, because I want to be on the job site supervising all the time.
Yep.
But I also have office work to do. I mean,
Yeah.
I run a whole business. I need to respond to emails and
Yeah.
assemble my schedule online and everything. So my original idea was
Put an AC on that end.
this was going to be my work desk.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to have my AC and work here while I'm like checking on people. It never worked out that way though.
Yeah.
Because
It's better just to be hot and sweaty and get it done.
I mean-
I keep a fan at my feet often.
in
Blow a
reality,
fan on me.
I am running around all the time.
Yeah.
And my office work is done at 4:30 in the morning.
Yeah,
That's
as
the
a busy
reality.
small business owner, that's right. All right, so I'm seeing some good stuff. We've got a couple Sashco products, some Moreflex, some Big Stretch.
Yeah.
He's keeping every last bit of his zip tape. Smart.
We pick it up off the ground all the time.
Heck yeah,
I
that's
mean-
money. That's dollars right there. He's got some leftover flashing tape from another job he's keeping. This is that Sega Fentrim, if you're not familiar. This is that fleece back tape, and they sell it in different widths. And it's going to be millimeters probably on the website, but that's your basic 4-inch right there. And this is a particularly cool product because it will stick to concrete as well as zip system sheathing. So you don't want to use the zip tape where you're sticking to concrete. This isn't intended for it. This is specifically engineered and designed to stick onto their sheathing, which is a perfect match for their sheathing tape. But when you get to that sheathing landing on concrete, that's when he's varying here. However, I'm seeing you got something else here.
We always keep our guard on hand because anytime we have a penetration or a detail that is difficult to tape around,
Yep.
we'll just go ahead and liquid flash around it.
Liquid flash is the
I
way
do
to
that on
go.
my doors all the time because I'm using smaller doors and a thicker wall.
Yep,
So the flashing is a little bit more difficult.
yep. And anytime you've got shims in the job, I love that you're keeping 2 varieties.
Yeah.
These are the composite shims.
For outdoor use.
Anytime you see these
if
are
I-
perfect for anything that's going to get wet.
I'll shim up under a door with these.
Mhm.
I like to keep just a slight gap under my door. So I'm letting the water run out and then I back dam it on the other side with the liquid flash.
Love it.
So in a way, it's a site-built door pan.
Yeah, totally.
Getting door pans out here is a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, like
I
a
can't just run to
the
one
store
of
and
the
grab
suppliers.
one. And I see you've got your high-tech shim cutter as well, which is
Right,
like 90%
exactly.
of the builders use their cordless
Right.
oscillating tool for is shim cutting. Love it, man. Anything else?
Yeah, I mean, I keep all my,
Oh, that's a great
all my
one.
flashing details.
If you're not familiar, that's a quick flash boot for HVAC line sets, which clean up really nicely. And then that's your Arlington inbox, right?
Right.
Let me see that real fast, just in case people haven't seen that. This is that recessed box. So instead of that really ugly bubble cover, this sits really nice and flush. But like Scott showed you, you got to air seal it because it comes into your cavity a little bit. But man, they look a lot nicer. Scott, can't thank you enough for the tour, man. Really, really good work, my friend.
Thank you.
Guys, if you're interested in any of these houses under construction, we're in Bastrop, Texas. And if you're thinking about a custom home in Bastrop, you should be calling Scott. How can people get a hold of you, Scott?
They can visit our website, demarahomes.com.
Okay. And are you on social media at all that builders could follow your work and what you're doing detail-wise? Not really?
I'm not a. I would like to get into that.
Maybe someday.
I just haven't been doing it. I'm not a big social media.
No big
guy.
deal. No big deal. All right, guys. Thanks for joining Scott and I for a little tour of high performance on a budget. I learned some things. I've been really, really impressed with Scott. Super fun day on the job site. Guys, if you're not currently following me, hit that subscribe button below. We've got new content here every Tuesday and every Friday. Follow me on Instagram or TikTok. Otherwise, we'll see you next time on The Build Show.